This is part 3 of the Korean War. If you haven't seen our previous episodes, be sure to check them out before continuing. On July 27, 1953, an armistice was signed between the rivaling powers, officially ending the war in Korea. The conflict had affected nations all around the world, and both North and South Korea had been left devastated. In the North, 80% of all industrial infrastructure had been destroyed, and half of all housing had suffered the same fate due to Allied bombing. As a result, North Korea's industry basically ceased to exist after the war, but Chinese and Soviet support soon got the country back on its feet. The South was also bombed, but it was minor in comparison to the North. The first decade following the war, South Korea remained in an economic standstill, but US support throughout the 1960s soon turned South Korea's economy into one of the fastest growing in the world. Prisoner of war exchanges were a point of great problematic negotiation, as many communist POWs refused to be repatriated. This was unacceptable to the Chinese and North Koreans, but after much negotiations, exchanges began in August 1953, and POWs had the choice to stay or go. Also, many Allied POWs were not freed from North Korean camps. It is estimated that around 500 South Korean POWs continued to be detained in North Korea as of 2013. Following the armistice, the demilitarized zone was created as a buffer zone between the North and South. The 4-kilometer wide area that runs from the Yellow Sea in the west to the Sea of Japan in the east can only be patrolled by a select number of soldiers carrying specified weapons. But beyond this zone lays one of the most heavily militarized areas on Earth, as both sides remain prepared for potential aggression. Being one of the first conflicts of the Cold War, it showed both the US and the Soviet Union that they could engage in proxy wars as a non-direct method of confronting each other, thereby avoiding another world war or even a nuclear one. This ultimately led to other proxy wars like the war in Vietnam, the Soviet-Afghan War, and many others. The conflict's influence was on a global scale. The Western Bloc for one became more unified as the threat of communism grew, and many feared that this war was the first step in a communist campaign to take over the world. And as a result, both the US and the United Nations were quick to intervene, which displayed to the world that they would not tolerate communist aggression, something that the League of Nations lacked with Nazi aggression. In the Communist bloc, the war increased tensions between China and the USSR. Although China was in the war to secure economic support from the Soviet Union, it also viewed the war as a fight against the capitalist West, and believed that an all-out war should be waged against the West with heavy Soviet involvement. But the Soviet Union did not want to commit troops to the conflict, risking an outbreak of a larger war, or quite possibly a nuclear one. As a result, China's opinion of the Soviet Union was diminished, contributing to worsening relations between the two largest communist powers, which would in time result in the Sino-Soviet Split in the 60s. For the rest of the world, it was one of what would become many frightening times during the Cold War as the threat of nuclear war grew. Maintaining peace on the peninsula has since been an international effort, as both UN and US troops continue to be stationed around the DMZ, with just under 30,000 US troops currently in South Korea. Thanks for watching, be sure to subscribe for more videos.